for real change in his community. Reese Wood started in the race for Wisconsin State Assembly District 44 in Janesville, running on a campaign to unite communities and be transparent. He got kicked off because of ongoing voter suppression and is now a write-in candidate. A wise man once said, "Without deviation from the norm, progress is not possible." We deserve real change for real people. Reese will be at his local park in Janesville tomorrow for a Meet Your Candidate gathering. And if you're from the area or you know anybody who's going to be there, please show up, join the conversation. Everybody, please welcome Reese Wood.
Time for real change. Jo Jorgensen said this in her acceptance speech as a Libertarian presidential nominee, and I couldn't agree more. Among libertarians, there's a popular phrase, carry the torch. I'd like to give you an idea of what carrying the torch has been like for one individual. I come from a politically apathetic upbringing. Growing up, political discussions were never popular, didn't occur much. I can tell you the first time I remember discussing politics, it was on September 11th, 2001. I was in my sophomore year at high school biology class, watching the news on TV with classmates. Shortly later, we were asked to resume our schedule. When I got home that evening, my father and I had the first political discussion I can remember. As he spoke to me, I could sense some uncertainty. Like many of us, he was afraid things would get much worse, and he didn't know what we would do if they did become worse. Would a war begin in the United States? Would we attempt to flee? Would we leave the country and try to find somewhere else? Like many of us, we concluded we would resume life as normal and hope for the best. By the time I graduated in 2004, I had gone from politically apathetic to vocally against the war on terror and the Bush-Kerry duopoly election. For me, forgive me, but I did support Ralph Nader during that time. I had no idea what third parties really were or independent candidates, but slowly I realized there was more than one alternative in most of our elections. I had a moment of awakening when I realized you don't have to go along with the two traditional parties. This is when I began to walk on my own 2 feet when it comes to politics. I began my political activism in the 2012 election, putting door hangers out for Gary Johnson, even collected my first few signatures for Libertarian candidates. When I decided to run my first campaign for Assembly in 2017, one factor was that I felt compelled to keep the momentum going that I saw regular people working to get on the ballot in our state. What I witnessed were regular people showing up in elections for state assembly, Congress, and presidential candidates. These were not the most wealthy or well-connected types. I kept saying I wanted to keep the ball rolling because I saw something changing in our elections worth pushing forward. The phrase, carry the torch, was still unfamiliar with me, but looking back, that's exactly what I was aiming for. In October 2017, I announced my candidacy for Wisconsin State Assembly, and in the general election of 2018, Wisconsin saw what I think was a significant number of independent candidates for governor, all the way to down-ballot candidates. It might have been the largest frequency of independent and third-party candidates we've ever seen in Wisconsin in that election. We are changing the political environment in Wisconsin, not just libertarians, individual people. As more individuals decide to run for office, we become closer to being able to solve real issues that real people face. And we step further away from the unjust traditions within our government. I announced my second run for state assembly in April this year, feeling it was unlikely we would see a continuation of the progress that we witnessed in 2018. I knew the stay-at-home orders would make it difficult to collect signatures, but I was not willing to sit on the sidelines and watch the elections in my area go to the most established candidates. This year, 16 independents made the ballot in our state, and also 16 were denied access. The only 2 Green candidates that declared were also denied. One independent Libertarian declared but did not submit signatures. Our campaign was the only Libertarian to be approved for ballot access. On June 1st, we submitted 229 signatures. With 209 approved by the Election Commission, our campaign was set to be on the ballot in a race against a Republican and Democrat in an open seat election. Within 3 days, the executive directors of both the Republican and Democratic Assembly campaign committees challenged 13 to 17 various signatures. In the end, just enough were challenged and took us off the ballot. I'm now continuing as a write-in, and our race for the 44th Assembly District has one thing in common, I believe, with Joe Jorgensen's campaign. The Republican and the Democrat in our races have already exemplified the negative traditions of politics by doing what they can to ignore us. Like the Jorgensen campaign, I aim not only to win the election, but to equally inspire. The Libertarian Party has exceeded my expectations this year with our presidential and vice presidential candidates, and I couldn't be more inspired to be campaigning as a Libertarian. I'm now a father of 4. I have 4 daughters, 1 little boy, and you can bet I'm proud to have Jorgensen and Cohen at the top of our tickets. Our party, if the torch I carry wasn't burning bright enough before tonight and before getting to speak here, it will be burning brighter when I leave. Thank you all. Vote gold.